Hello, I'm Greg Leroy, the Executive Director of Good Jobs First. We're a nonprofit research group on economic development. Welcome to our video about Tax Break Tracker. It's a database revealing state and local government revenues that are lost to economic development tax breaks. Tax Break Tracker is made possible by a new ruling from the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB. That's a nonprofit group that sets forth the rules by which most governments in America keep their books. Those rules are called Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, or GAAP for short, for the public sector. GASB continuously improves those accounting principles, and when they do make improvements after much study and research, they issue those amendments in the form of statements. So in 2014 and 2015, more than 300 individuals and organizations formally commented to GASB recommending that it adopt a statement covering economic development tax breaks. And that was indeed issued in 2015. It's called Statement 77 on Tax Abatement Disclosures. There was a little bit of a delay. The first year that was really covered was the fiscal year for 2017. And the newest data that we're looking at now comes from fiscal year 2019. So there's really only 3 years of data in most places. Good Jobs First brings you now, as a public service, an online database called Tax Break Tracker. It's a very labor-intensive project, compiling data one document at a time from thousands of financial reports from cities, counties, school districts, special districts, state governments, fire districts, sewer districts, transportation districts, all kinds of tens of thousands of local governments around the United States, and making it easily to search and download free of charge online. So with no further ado, let me introduce to you Christine Wen, our project coordinator for Tax Break Tracker.
Hi, today I'll be demonstrating for you the Tax Break Tracker. So I will share my screen. And here we go. So from our homepage, goodjobsfirst.org, you will go here to go to the database directly, or here to look at some other resources that we have on GASB statement number 77. The Tax Break Tracker interface is quite simple. You choose a state and go search, or you choose a state and refine by different types of localities and go search, or you can just choose a locality directly from all the localities in the United States that we have data for and click search. So let's choose a state and see what happens. New York, and immediately your these menus that you see are limited to just New York State, school districts, and cities and counties. But let's just now choose those for now and press search. And here we have New York State revenue loss tax abatement programs. And near the top here, we have state level programs and the program name and the revenue loss. And down here, we have the total for these are state level programs. And down here is all the localities that we have data for in New York State. And for 2019, which we're on right now, we have the data for Buffalo, New York City, Rochester, Syracuse, and Yonkers. And as you can see, New York City is a very big one. So you can navigate to all switching the tab near the top, and these are the same state programs, but with slightly different costs each year. And so going back to the latest year, if we click on one of these programs, say Empire Zones, you get more details about this particular program, such as the statutory authority or the applicable taxes and method of abatement, which is tax credit in this case. But if you click on the locality, you're taken to a very similar looking page, but these are all local programs in New York City. And here you have the program name, program type, most of which is just economic development, general economic development, revenue loss, reimbursement, or offset, these are usually payments in lieu of taxes, for example, or reimbursement from a state government. But in this case, it's all nothing. And the net revenue loss is just the difference between the two. And finally, a type of loss, which requires a little bit of explanation. So we call a revenue loss active if the government, the reporting government, in this case, New York City, entered into the agreements itself. And we call it passive if the agreements belong to some other governments. So, so in this case, the authority actually belongs to the state of New York, so we call that passive. And if we were to look at school district, we get a lot of these kind of passive revenue loss because it's the cities or counties that have these agreements. And as you can see, we have different data available for different years. And this is mainly because this database itself is not exhaustive, but we enter data for when we have collected data for a research project. So in 2017, we published, in 2018, actually, we published this really big study on the revenue impact of tax abatements on school districts. So we have a lot of data on school district, and we're updating the study, so which means we will have a lot of 2019, which is the latest year, data for school districts. And so taxpayer tracker is really pretty simple to use, and if you get stuck, you can check out the user guide right here. You can see the 50-state summary right here, where we have the revenue loss reported by the state, revenue loss reported by select localities, which are the localities that we have in our database, and we have a number telling you how many of these there are. So you have an idea of what this number actually means. And finally, you can see what's been updated. We update this database quite often, every few months, and you can see what changed since last time it was updated. And click here to see everything we have written on GASB 77. And this is this page, which you can also access from our main page down here, GASB 77 Tax Abatement Disclosures Resource Center. And so here we have a lot, so we don't just collect the data and put it in a tracker. We do a lot of additional value added work, such as pulling trends and patterns from the revenue losses. For example, if you can click here to see that we have done, we have pulled the figures and also made some comments, observations about them for the largest cities, for state governments, for largest counties and school districts. So we tabulate annual revenue losses, we analyze tax abatements and inequality, and which is actually what our upcoming study is going to be about. I recently published something where we showed that a lot of districts that are losing a lot of revenue to these tax abatements are also the ones that have the highest student poverty, for example. And we also investigate underreporting and non-compliance because this rule is kind of relatively new, and we'll find that a lot of governments are not really reporting at the level that it should be. And so we document these incidences, and we try to find out why they're not reporting tax abatements. And finally, we provide research support for anyone interested in learning more about using the data, and also for people who are concerned about the lack of reporting in their state and want to raise compliance and reporting. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Greg.
Except I'll recommend you point out the roadmaps a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Yes, so our most precious resources are at the top of the page, where first you have the taxpayer tracker, which I just showed you is the database. And we have this, the GASB 77 Chronicles contain all the blog that we have written, a lot of great stuff there. And the GASB 70 roadmaps, which falls under our third area of work, which is investigating underreporting and non-compliance, where you can see, so we have written a guide, a roadmap for each state that sort of shows you the people, the organizations, and the institutions involved in GASB 77 implementation activation. And we'll pick Ohio, for example. You get a PDF document that answers basically all your burning questions. Who in the state government is most likely to influence GASB 77 disclosure? Who commented on the exposure draft from Ohio, which is when the rule was first proposed. And how many counties, municipalities, and school districts in the state are required to conform to GAAP and therefore GASB statements. And this is very useful information to have because not every state mandates the use of GAAP. And is there a state office to collect CAFRs from local governments? Another great resource to have. So anyway, so these are absolutely just invaluable. They took a lot of time and work and research, and we encourage everyone to use them.
Thanks very much, Christine. And again, we appreciate your interest in GASB Statement 77 and Tax Break Tracker, and look forward to hearing from you if you want to learn more about the data and use it. Thank you.